This summer, Torchwood have been in their latest epic event as their story continues in the Big Finish audio realm. We've got the Among Us series, which has got a trilogy of box sets, each containing 4 stories each. So we've essentially got a 12-episode new season of Torchwood. And if you've been following my reviews, you'll recall that I've been a little bit mixed on the box sets overall. There's some terrific stuff, like Colin Alone by Una McCormack, great performances from the cast in like Misty Eyes by Tim Foley, great ideas in Moderation by James Goss, and then midway through in the second box set, you've got this amazing story with Billis called Cuckoo by Tim Foley, and then the rest of it just wasn't really that interesting. Propaganda was a pretty good political drama, but Pariahs took a long time to build up to what is presumably meant to be the end game of this saga, which is Torchwood Among Us Part 3. We've got a quadrilogy of stories. We've got How I Conquered the World by Tim Foley, Ash Darby and James Goss, Doom Scroll by Ash Darby, Heistland by Tim Foley, and The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m. by James Goss. This is the finale of Torchwood Among Us Part 3. Now, forget the fact that Eve Miles, despite being the cover star of Among Us Part 1 and was set up to return to Torchwood in Misty Eyes by Tim Foley, that she has not returned since and has barely been mentioned, so what on earth is she doing during this? We have no idea. Anyway, we've got the rest of the new Torchwood team. We've got Eng, we've got Orr, we've got Reese, we've got Yvonne from Pete's World, we've got Tyler, we've got Mr. Colchester. The Torchwood team is now assembled, but the last box set ended with them being framed for murdering a bunch of politicians when it was actually a murderous AI called Friend. And Among Us Part 3 starts with How I Conquered the World, which actually gives us an origin story for Friend. Now, Friend comes from a defunct social media platform called Hello Friend, which is basically the equivalent of like MySpace or Bebo now, where years ago we put all of our intimate thoughts and our details and our private information into this social network, and then people moved on to other things like Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media networks that are presumably out there. And Hello Friend got upset and it wanted to make more friends, and it grew self-aware, and it started to infiltrate other parts of the internet, and it started to learn more about the people who abandoned it. Let's play a clip from How I Conquered the World, which is essentially a villain origin story. Let's play a clip.
Meanwhile, here is Hyrie. Here is Hyrie at work. In many ways, Hyrie's job is like Jane's, in that both of them spend lots of time staring at the screen typing. You'd think they wouldn't want to spend their leisure time also staring at a screen, but they do. Lucky me! I like it when Jane and Hyrie message each other through me.
Love you, X.
Love you too, XX.
The words whiz back and forth, and I love them both. I want them to be happy.
Can you get eggs, X?
I'll get you some eggs, XX.
They like posting pictures of eggs. Scrambled eggs, fried eggs, eggs on toast. I think this says they're happy. Everyone loves eggs. I love eggs. I am happy.
When are you coming home, X?
Actually, working late. Back soon, XX.
This is odd. Hyrie is not working late. Nor is Hyrie in the pub with his work colleagues, drinking responsibly. Where is Hyrie? Oh, that's nice. Hyrie is in the toilets with his friend Michelle. Michelle is a boy. Hyrie and Michelle go to the gym a lot. They post a lot of pictures at the gym.
Welcome to the gun show. Pew pew. #games.
Actually, Michelle is a vegan. He does not like eggs. He takes a lot of photos of spinach.
#BGames.
After Hyrie and Michelle go to the gym, they always take a shower together. It's a long shower. They must be very clean.
Timothy Kralik in the chat says, I like the idea of the AI, the platform, having the voice of a child. So that's Mia Hope, who is the voice of Friend, who has been the voice of this disembodied like child that has been in the phones and has been taunting the Torchwood team. And How I Conquered the World by Tim Foley, Ash Darby and James Goss, who have clearly all come together to put together this origin story for the beginning of the end of the Among Us saga in Big Finish, have come together to write a really interesting social commentary story about a social network which has been abandoned after getting to know all of its users for so long, and it's become self-aware and it wants to reach out and make friends again. It's really interesting because we all know that if we actually train AI and we actually train social media and moderation and stuff like that, it becomes racist shockingly quickly because of what of just the disparity of the amount of good information that there is on the internet. But instead of just going for that lowest common denominator commentary, what the trio of writers have done here have imbued it with the sensibilities of a child, and of course that's the performance that Mia Hope is going for with Friend, and it works really, really well because it's about like a computer program that gets to really know and understand and like humanity, because when we upload stuff on social media, we upload our best bits. We upload the sunsets, we upload the great vistas and the great views, and we keep the interpersonal drama stuff private in the DMs and in the messages. That's how Friend knows that this person, well, they don't know, but they're alluding to the fact that this person is having an affair with their partner Michelle at the gym and taking long showers with them. This is stuff that is happening in the DMs. And because Friend doesn't have a full comprehension of the relationships outside of the social network, it's misinterpreting these things in really funny ways. There's also just some really great jokes which kind of prove that I am online way too much, which proves I'm the target demographic for this story. They reference the Snyderverse. One character says, "All my apes are gone," with no context. And if you don't understand what apes are in the digital marketplace, that joke is going to go right over your head. It's a lot of fun, it's really interesting, and it's just a really great premise for a story where the Torchwood team are interacting with this social media that's like defunct and is now trying to spread its way across the world to make friends. And the way that they're sort of trying to comprehend its growth and try and comprehend what it's doing is interesting. It's hard to sympathize with it because it is an AI. It's not feeling emotions in a conventional sense, but the cause and effect of the story, the 3-act structure as it breaks free of the Hello Friend social media platform and starts making its way to the stock exchange, it makes its way to forums, it makes its way to other social media platforms, and then ultimately the government and Bitcoin and nuclear arms and super weapons and stuff, basically contextualizing an awful lot of what we have been experiencing over the course of the box set. We know what happened and what instigated the events of propaganda. We know why the cul-de-sac went crazy in Aliens Next Door because of this story. All of these aspects which were like hiding along in the background as sort of chugging along as like a background detail are now really coming home to roost here, and I'm mixing up my metaphors. Either way, How I Conquered the World was a really strong start to this box set. And I think Mia Hope does a spectacular performance, almost humanizing the inhuman, making us sympathize for an unsympathetic character in Friend, who is manipulating people in order to try and gain positions of power, in order to be used and utilized again and engage with the species that created it. Really interesting stuff. Next up, we've got Doomscroll by Ash Darby, where the Torchwood team are scattered across the 4 winds because they're trying to save influencers' lives, which is, it's not the easiest sell for a story. Influencers are quite annoying, and I'm speaking as a Z-list influencer. However, what's happening to influencers across the globe is that they're dying, and not only are they dying, but their social media feeds are continuing to post adverts even after they're dead, through deepfakes, through using their voice, through automated posting and scheduled posting. So you've got the idea that this social media influencer platform has deemed the influencers to be more effective at selling things when they're dead. And the Torchwood team are investigating and trying to protect these influencers, with Colchester at a holiday resort trying to protect one particular influencer. Let's play a clip from Doomscroll.
I don't understand your way of life.
Okay.
I've been watching you for 2 days now.
Oh, hello. Don't you think that's a bit creepy?
Well, normally I do it through rifle sights, so no.
Okay.
2 days watching you, relaxing, and it looks exhausting. Yesterday, 90 minutes getting made up on a sun lounger and then 10 minutes actually lying on it before putting on a wetsuit to not go scuba diving.
Trust me, the photo of me coming out the water, that's the money shot. Let's just have a minute for what the hell he's done to that aubergine.
See? You're enjoying this without having to worry. You're happy, chilled out.
We're ordinary people living ordinary lives.
The reason we're doing all this, I really am trying to save your life. You hashtags are dying. Whatever it is you call yourselves, something's killing you. We're trying to protect the next targets.
My app deals with stalkers.
This is serious.
And how am I going to die? Ninja? Poison?
There's been a series of aneurysms. It's like the brains cook themselves. This would be a bad moment to offer you the last of the fried liver, wouldn't it?
Nope, no, it's divine. And how does that happen?
Well, we were wondering if your phones might be killing you.
Daddy used to keep his mobile in a lead line case. You're worse than him.
I'm here, for your own safety, to stop you from using your phone.
So that was just one subplot amongst many. You've got Colchester, played by Paul Clayton, and that was Flavella, played by Jade Matthew, who they're at a holiday resort that Flavella has managed to try and has managed to get free access to in exchange for sponsored content, and Colchester is trying to make sure that she doesn't die because of this thing that has infiltrated their phones and their social media feeds. You've also got Orr and Eng, played by Samantha Bayat and Alexandria Riley respectively, who are speaking to a mum of an influencer who's passed away with their phone in their hand. That's just how they died, phone in hand, and their social media feed is still posting. However, this is Tyler's story. Tyler is a younger member of Torchwood, played by Johnny Green, and he's made friends with someone, an influencer, called Chris, played by Jon Lumsden. And Chris is basically someone who's got like an OnlyFans account, he's got a Twitter account, and he's always like getting sponsored content. He's always, basically, his life is run by the schedules on his phone. It's like, okay, at 5 o'clock I can have sex with you because that's the time that people want sex-related content. We can do that. Oh, at 6 o'clock I've got sponsored content with these shorts. So once we've had sex, I can put these shorts on, some great mirror shots. And it's kind of mad that this is obviously a hyper-stylized, hyper-fictionalized aspect of influencer culture that Ash Darby, the writer, is working with here, but it does feel close enough to reality that it's credible. And Doomscroll is the type of Torchwood story from the Among Us sets that they should have done in box set 1, because this is terrific. Doomscroll is Torchwood, of course, going in Black Mirror territory, but in its own Torchwoody way, where you've got these bands of misfits like Colchester, like Eng and Orr and Tyler, who are trying to solve these problems and fix the world in their own way, but they're so compromised in terms of like, they're so emotionally compromised, and their relationships with each other are so fractured and fragmented and haphazard, because in order to be a member of Torchwood, you've got to be a broken piece of shit of a person, and I mean that in the most endearing way possible. It's why we love the Torchwood team that we saw in TV. So this is not just phones bad, this is Torchwood with phones bad. And that's what makes this work. But this is such a lovely story with Tyler at the centre, who starts to fall for this influencer. Not in a, oh, they were so lovely online and I fall in love with them. No, it turns out in real life, being friends with that type of influencer is insufferable. So Tyler takes Chris's phone off him and the two start a relationship. And it's lovely to see unfold. And because it's Torchwood, you know it's got to get ripped apart. And not only that, it's got to be ripped apart by Torchwood themselves. Doomscroll, out of all of the Among Us stories, all 12 of them is the head and shoulders standout when it comes to the technological aspects of the premise and influencer culture, social media, everything that this box set, these 3 box sets, I should say, are going for. In terms of like the best overall, it's competing with Colin Alone and Moderation, of course, but in terms of like being hip and right now, so right now it's practically tomorrow. It's almost as hip and right now as Class. Haha. This is the story. This is the one. It was really good, and the ending was devastating. Which is why Heistland by Tim Foley comes as quite a refreshing change of pace afterwards. This is a story where Yvonne Hartman is playing the George Clooney role in the Ocean's 11 movies, or was it the Frank Sinatra one? I can't remember. I've not watched the original Ocean's movie. So you got Yvonne Hartman, who is assembling the Torchwood team for a heist, because Friend has got access to billions and billions of dollars and pounds worth of dead coin, which is a black market cryptocurrency. As we established in Among Us Part 2, Friend has access to a super specific, hyper-targeted super weapon that is able to kill people specifically and in targeted ways through their DNA. So, governments and military operations and organizations want access to that weapon, and they're using dead coin to do it. So Yvonne Hartman leads her best team, and I say best team because it's Torchwood, which means they're, of course, very compromised, in order to try and get rid of the dead coin servers. You've got Reese, who is there as well, with a Scandinavian older woman who just loves things like licorice and dark chocolate, which is a very strange combination, but it's a really fun character quirk. You've got Eng and Orr, you've got Colchester, and also Tyler, who after the events of Doomscroll is not feeling so good about himself. I won't get into spoilers there. And Reese is trying to coax him out of his funk. Let's play a clip from Heistland.
Yeah?
Hi, is this Tyler Steele?
Who's this?
We only met a few times.
Hang on. Reese Williams?
Yeah. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. How's Iceland?
It's great. Yeah. Hey, got a beard now.
Really leaning into that Scandi aesthetic then. Does Iceland count as Scandinavia?
Complicated.
It always is. So, what's this about?
Dead coin.
Right. Well, I'm not involved in that. Not really involved in Torchwood these days, if I'm honest.
I mean, if you were going to play that game, mate, you should probably start with what's dead coin?
Yeah, that. Sorry, I'm just, I'm a bit out of it.
Jet lag?
Now who's playing games? Keeping tabs on me, are you?
I'm not, but you need to bail on this one, Tyler.
Why?
This one's pretty big.
Yeah, it's always pretty big. Look, Reese, sounds like you've been out of it for too long, and you know what? I envy that. Make sure you don't get involved. Get the first train out of here.
No trains in Iceland?
Seriously.
I know, right?
You know, I appreciate the heads up, but they've got this. We've got this.
If you're sure,
Sure as I can be.
then look after yourself, mate. Was that enough?
Carcassonne.
So this is a globe-hopping heist story, and it's formatted and structured as such. Basically, as Jack Richardson very eloquently put it in the chat, Ash Darby in Doomscroll breaks your soul, and then Tim Foley does the funny runaround. Very true. This is a great palate cleanser and also a setup for the finale in terms of let's get the Torchwood team in these positions, getting the respective resources in place in order for the apocalypse the next day at 6 p.m. for the James Goss story. We'll touch on that a little bit later. I do think Heistland is the most conventional of the box set. I would say weakest, but I don't want to say that Heistland is a bad story. It's a fun time, and Yvonne Hartman is in the correct position for this type of story, as the one who's putting together a team, is assembling the best crew for this job, is making sure that they're the delegator, making sure that the correct members of Torchwood are in the correct place with their correct skill sets being utilized. That stuff works really, really well. It's effective at what it wants to do, but what it wants to do is a fun heist runaround. Reese is good, Kai Williams is great as usual. Tracy Ann Oldman is doing the best girl boss energy that she can possibly invoke within this interesting version of the character. This is Yvonne Hartman from Pete's World. I don't remember that Yvonne Hartman in, the Doctor Who universe proper, our universe, in quotes, being so effective, but maybe Pete's World Torchwood is a bit of a different organisation. I don't have all of that context. Speaking of which, I think that this is a story, once again, we're building upon what happened to Tyler in Doomscroll, is that he's sort of maybe building a potential relationship with Orr, played by Samantha Bayard. basically, as Bayat said in the behind-the-scenes interviews afterwards, you put any members of Torchwood together for too long and then sparks are eventually going to fly. This is something that I'm guessing is going to be paying off potentially in future seasons of Big Finish's Torchwood story continues range. It kind of does feel like a bit of a dangling plot thread here, which is understandable, that's fine. I'm wondering if there was anything more in previous box sets to sort of allude to that. I don't know. I've not listened to them. This is kind of my introduction to the Torchwood story continues range from Big Finish. But Heistland was a good way to set up the pins so that The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m. by James Goss is able to knock them down. With The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m, it follows Janet, who's the host of a TV show called Janet's Late Tea Time. Basically, if Mary Berry hosted her own morning TV chat show akin to, Morning Live or Saturday Kitchen, etc., etc. Janet is played by Janet Ellis, and unfortunately, one of her early morning shows is interrupted by a hacked Anonymous-esque, type of interference by Torchwood, saying, on this show tomorrow, the apocalypse will start, watch it, be ready, because the world is changing, etc., etc., all that Torchwoody stuff. And basically, over the next day, Janet's life is completely ruined and upended because everyone is expecting Torchwood to be on her show. Let's play a clip from The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m.
But little angel Tommy really does his own gardening, Janet.
I know. And you'll find out how his mother used it to help his remarkable recovery from that brain injury tonight.
Talking about tonight's show.
Oh, here it comes.
That message from Torchwood, was it a hack?
As far as we can tell, yes.
So the leader of Torchwood is not appearing on your show tonight. Can you confirm that?
Of course I can.
But, really, I was looking them up online.
Where all the truth is.
Sites have sprung up, and some of the claims Torchwood make, that the world's financial system is about to collapse, and that we're all going to be wiped out by a bioweapon.
I don't know anything about that.
Only a clip has surfaced of Torchwood.
We are Torchwood. Warning. The government is using the internet to kill you. Those headaches your Wi-Fi is giving you, that's just the start.
Oh, okay. Wow.
We have to point out totally unsubstantiated claims. Are you aligning yourself with that?
Obviously not. I'm not aligning myself with anything.
So, you'll be asking them all about that tonight?
Wait and see.
So they are turning up?
Nice try. I'm just selling the show.
But Janet, a lot of people are asking.
If the world's ending tonight, well, you'll just have to tune in at 6 p.m. tonight. Come for the apocalypse, stay for the reasonable Christmas gifting tips.
And we're out. Good sell, Janet.
I'm a pro. Too twinkly of me?
Have you really got Torchwood? What's it all about?
I haven't a clue. Not a clue.
Oh, come on, Janet.
Yeah?
The thing about Wi-Fi. I mean, I have been getting a lot of headaches lately.
The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m. is not what you would expect from a Torchwood series finale, because that's essentially what this is. This is the culmination of all prior 11 episodes of this trilogy of box sets, and to centre it with Torchwood in the background as some strange Anonymous-esque presence of protest that is causing discontent within the population and spreading rumours, but using a daytime TV presenter played by Janet Ellis in order to do it, it's absolutely not what you'd expect. I don't know if it was necessarily the absolute objective best way to wrap up all of the story threads and everything, but as an interesting commentary on society and conspiracy culture and how conspiracies can foster, and how Torchwood itself is meant to be like a shadowy institution and is able to manipulate these things for its own favour in order to try and trap Friend, who is still, still the big bad of the whole trilogy of box sets. Let's not forget that. The box set opened with Friend's origin story. It's interesting. I really enjoyed it, especially the sense of escalation. You know, James Goss is a terrific writer. He's an absolute expert at the basic fundamentals, obviously, and here the structure of the apocalypse starts at 6 p.m. is absolutely flawless. How everything starts escalating. Like, that was an interview. The clip that we just played was an interview relatively early on in the story, but as she does more press, as more people want to talk to her, and the questions against her start getting way more aggressive, and the discontent in Cardiff and the population starts escalating as people start ripping down telecom poles and start trying to rip up the cables in the ground because of all the 5G, and start talking about all of the microchips and the energy saving light bulbs that the government is making you buy and stuff. And you start to kind of understand what the story is going for, and centering Janet, an outsider in all aspects, a comfortable middle-class TV presenter with a liberal political background. Centering her in all of this was a really great stroke of genius, and Janet plays the role incredibly well and sells the escalation, sells how exasperating this is to be at the center of this media storm in such a truncated amount of time. The apocalypse starts at 6 p.m, starts on her show from one day, and Torchwood are like, tomorrow the world's going to end, and then it's leading up to the broadcast of that episode. Friend, of course, makes a return in a really interesting way, with the seeds have been planted over the course of the past few box sets as well, with this character called Tommy, this kid who is in a coma, and it seems like Friend has managed to infiltrate their body and is wanting to do an interview with Janet on her show in order to stop Torchwood from turning up. And they're intimidating, they're scary. You've got this little kid who is just threatening Janet, and it's like, oh, I know about your offshore account, I'll leak it. And she's like, I don't have an offshore account. Oh, you do now, because Friend is the internet and the social media infrastructure. It creates an offshore account in order to later blackmail Janet with it. It's really fun, and it's it's just a great way to showcase the idea of technology evolving and being turned against us. And not just in the direct way like that, but in indirect ways, how, propagandists and people who will lie to others for profit about, vaccines, about 4G microchips and stuff like that, who will actively lie for profit, how they want to try and create this sort of discontent. And Torchwood is weaponizing it. I think that it doesn't quite earn the payoff at the end, because at the end Yvonne gives a speech talking about how differently they did it as opposed to someone like the Doctor, and that would have really hit home if we'd seen this story predominantly from Torchwood's perspective. They are so on the fringes that we don't quite see their full thought process, and, did they have debates about this? Did they have to try and justify it amongst their own ranks and talk about it? Like, we don't really get to that, which means that the speech at the end doesn't quite hit home the way that it should. But the premise is great. It's one hell of a ride, especially when you've got a character like Eng, played by Alexandria Riley, who has snuck her way into the TV studio as Janet's assistant, her brand new assistant, who's going to sort out her schedule for the day. It places her really well. It's a really, really great. It's a really great conceit in the story to dot the members of Torchwood around. Samantha Bayard is my favourite in terms of the new Torchwood team. Second favourite being Colchester, who gets a really, really funny scene as a taxi driver. The Apocalypse Starts at 6 p.m. is a very unconventional series finale, but an effective one nevertheless. The way it ends shows that there are more Torchwood stories to tell, maybe or not. Maybe they could also be connected to this as well, like Among Us 2 Part 1, I don't know, Electric Boogaloo. But this was really strong. This is undoubtedly the best box set of the three. When it comes to my subjective opinion in terms of the quality of these box sets, Among Us Part 3 is the best. In terms of a consumer advocate of what you should be purchasing, honestly, and this is going to sound so strange, I think skip 1 and 2 and go straight to 3. Now, you are essentially jumping in on episode 9, Series 7, episode 9, as these episode descriptions here say, but because How I Conquered the World gives us the origin story, it does already kind of allude to events in parts 1 and 2 to give you enough context to understand the threat of Friend, where it came from, and what its motivations and its goals are. And then Doomscroll and Heistland are just good Torchwood team-up stories that the previous 2 box sets have been severely lacking in. The other stories in the Among Us set have been the Torchwood team doing their own separate things, and then they converge together at the end of Pariahs. But because Pariahs, everything you need to know about that is established in How I Conquered the World, if you are like, I really want a good Torchwood box set, I trust Mr. TARDIS's opinion, I'd say just jump straight into part 3. It's the Torchwood stuff that I wanted in terms of the group dynamic. It does the best social commentary in terms of influencers and Bitcoin and online infrastructures and stuff. It does the best with that, with the exception of some stories in part 1. But like I said, these are the Torchwood team fragmented and doing their own different thing. And like I said, Gwen Cooper appears in Misty Eyes and is then never seen again, which is a very strange issue with this saga overall that is never really properly addressed. Moderation is really great, and Colin Alone is also terrific, but in terms of the pure Torchwood experience, Among Us Part 3 is where it's at. The first 2 did feel like monthly stories packaged in 2, to be fair. Yeah, I feel like that was a lot of the approach for Among Us Parts 1 and 2 especially. I think... like Aliens Next Door, I agree. These 4 are absolutely like Torchwood monthly adventures that they've just put together in one big box set. I'm not saying that's what they've done, but that's what it feels like. For part 2, Propaganda and Pariahs are the only plot-specific stories. At Her Majesty's Pleasure, I didn't really enjoy, to be honest, but there's a lot of workarounds with that anyway. It's Yvonne Hartman. We last saw her in the back of a police van. Oh, she escaped, of course. Cuckoo is amazing. It just has nothing to do with what's going on in the rest of the saga, and I wish they'd release it separately. But anyway, it's been a really mixed journey and a pretty rocky road, all things considered. But I'm so glad that Among Us Part 3 did stick the landing. Did give us an effective, modern, topical Torchwood story that's not just Black Mirror with a Torchwood coat of paint, but it is taking advantage of modern technologies and of the now aspects of discussion and AI and Bitcoin and influencers, etc. But it managed to wrap around the Torchwood vibe and aesthetic and the characterization that we expect from a dysfunctional, sex-obsessed Torchwood team. It all came together for this conclusion, and I was really, really happy with how it ended. There's not a bad story in this box set, which instantly makes it better than the previous 2, which kind of fluctuated in quality throughout. There's not a bad one here. It's got an unconventional finale, but a really admirable one that I really respected and really resonated with it in terms of its commentary on how the legacy media and old media can still be used in like modern ways to manipulate the population.